What if I told you that in 1704, a 20-year-old African woman declared herself possessed by a Catholic saint, rewrote the entire Bible to put Africa as its center, attracted tens of thousands of followers, and was burned alive for threatening to overthrow both the church and African kings? Her name was Dona Beatriz Kimpa Vita, and this is the story they don't want you to know. But before we dive in, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss these untold stories from African history. In the year 1704, in the Kingdom of Kongo in Central Africa, a young woman named Beatriz Kimpa Vita stood before her people and made an extraordinary declaration. She announced that she had died and been reborn, possessed by the spirit of Saint Anthony of Padua. Through her, she proclaimed God would restore the Kingdom of Kongo to its former glory. This wasn't madness, this was revolution. Dona Beatriz Kimpa Vita was a prophet who created a new form of Christianity that placed Africa at the center of sacred history. She challenged both African kings and European missionaries, built a mass movement that attracted thousands overnight, and ultimately gave her life for her beliefs. Yet, most people have never heard her name. To understand why Kimpa Vita's story is so explosive, we need to understand the Kingdom of Kongo. By her birth around 1684, this once powerful Central African state had been in contact with Portuguese traders and missionaries for 2 centuries. The Congolese had adopted Catholicism as early as the 1490s, creating their own unique African Christianity. But by the late 1600s, the kingdom was collapsing under decades of civil war that left the capital city of South Salvador abandoned and in ruins. Rival claimants to the throne fought endlessly. The Atlantic slave trade had intensified, with European traders exploiting this conflict. Congolese society was being torn apart, families separated, communities destroyed. Into this chaos stepped Beatriz Kimpa Vita, a young woman who had trained as a traditional Nganga healer and also understood Catholic theology. She was uniquely positioned to challenge everything the establishment believed. In August 1704, Beatriz fell seriously ill, and when she recovered, she made a claim that would change African history forever. She declared that she had died and been resurrected, now inhabited by Saint Anthony of Padua. But what she said next shocked everyone. Her message formed the foundation of what became known as the Antonian movement. Kimpa Vita proclaimed that Jesus Christ had been born in South Salvador, not Bethlehem. The Virgin Mary was a Congolese woman. The apostles were African. Heaven belonged to the black people, and Christianity was fundamentally an African religion that had been stolen and distorted by Europeans. A young African woman in 1704 was essentially saying that everything the European missionaries had taught was a lie, and that Africa was the true birthplace of Christianity. She taught that the rituals and sacraments insisted upon by missionaries, baptism, confession, marriage ceremonies, were unnecessary. What mattered was faith in God and devotion to Saint Anthony. She introduced a new prayer, the Salve Antoniana, to replace the Hail Mary. Imagine the audacity, rewriting the core prayers of Christianity itself. But here is where the story gets even more incredible. Dona Beatriz Kimpa Vita demanded an end to the civil wars and called for the restoration of South Salvador as the kingdom's capital. She argued that God was punishing the Congo because the sacred city lay abandoned. And here's what's shocking. Thousands of people responded to her call. They marched to South Salvador and began rebuilding it, creating a mass movement that grew with astonishing speed. Kimpa Vita appointed little Antonis, disciples who spread her teachings throughout the kingdom like wildfire. Her message of restoration and her vision of an African Christianity resonated with people exhausted by conflict and exploitation. In just months, this young woman had built one of the most powerful grassroots movements in African history. The establishment was terrified. Naturally, this level of power couldn't go unchallenged. The Capuchin missionaries saw her as a dangerous heretic undermining their authority. The rival kings viewed our movement as a threat to their legitimacy. Kimpa Vita made a critical miscalculation in 1706 when she gave her support to King Pedro IV, believing it would help restore the kingdom. But she also became pregnant by one of her followers, which her enemies used to discredit her claims of spiritual authority. When she gave birth, her opponents seized the opportunity. And here is the ultimate betrayal. King Pedro IV, the very man she had supported, turned against her. Along with the Capuchin missionaries, particularly an Italian priest named Bernardo da Gallo, he had Kimpa Vita arrested and put on trial for heresy. The charges were carefully crafted. She had claimed to be possessed by saints. She had taught false doctrine. She had rejected the sacraments, and she had given birth while claiming to be a prophet. On July 2, 1706, at approximately 22 years old, after building a movement that threatened to reshape African Christianity forever, Dona Beatriz Kimpa Vita was burned at the stake. A woman who dared to imagine Christianity centered on Africa, who challenged European religious supremacy, who built a movement of thousands, silenced by fire. But here's what is remarkable. The execution of Kimpa Vita did not destroy the Antonian movement, which continued for years afterward. More importantly, her ideas never truly died. She became a powerful symbol of African agency, resistance, and religious creativity that still resonates today. Kimpa Vita demonstrated that Africans were not passive recipients of European Christianity, but active interpreters who could reshape religious traditions to assert their own dignity. She challenged the assumption that sacred history had to be European history. Her legacy echoes through subsequent African Christian movements, through liberation theology, through every effort to decolonize religious thought and reclaim African perspectives. Modern scholars recognize her as a prophet of African Christianity and an early voice of African nationalism and resistance to colonialism. Kimpa Vita reminds us that resistance takes many forms, that the battle over ideas can be as significant as military conflicts, and that ordinary people, including young women with extraordinary vision, can challenge empires and reshape the world. She was 22 years old when they killed her, but her vision outlived her executioners, outlived the kingdom that condemned her, and continued to inspire movements for African dignity over 300 years later. Why aren't we teaching this story in every history class? What other stories have been buried? If this story moved you, hit that like button and share this video. These stories need to be told. Subscribe and turn on all notifications because we are uncovering these hidden histories, these forgotten heroes, these stories that change everything we thought we knew. Comment below and let me know what other African historical figures you want to learn about. Your suggestions could become our next video. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep sharing these incredible stories. This is a story remembered truthfully.